Now that I've got most of the pallet wall up, I want to get started on actually putting in things that are useful, like for instance, the kitchen counter. So what you're looking at here is SketchUp. It's the program that I've used to design everything that goes into the van. And this is what I've decided for the framing. Now, it's not quite where it's going to be. Basically, I need to remove the toe kicks because I thought I had enough flooring available like in the van. I thought this projected further back. But that's just the downside of using an existing layout for the flooring. This was from the old camper conversion that I came with the van, so I'm kind of stuck with this unless I want to tear it out and put new flooring in. And I don't, so I just won't have a toe kick there. Basically, what we're going to have here is an L-shaped kitchen, and I just need to build the framing out of 2x2s. I need to protect the foam board insulation on the floor here, so I'm going to cover it up with just some regular ply. Okay, so I got the first board going in here, and I've notched it around everything that it needs to so that it fits right across, which means that this one going along here should be really simple. Okay, so the second board is done. That means everything under the kitchen counter and the portion of the couch there is fully finished. I sanded down these boards so that hopefully they don't give any splinters or anything, but that should protect the insulation, and I'll be able to put things directly on top of that now. So I've put a lip around the flooring here. This serves two purposes. The first purpose is as a support for the bottom of the cabinets, which will run like that. Basically, this will allow the cabinets to overhang this edge here by 1/4 of an inch. And the second purpose is so that it serves as a bit of a lip. So when I put something in here, say this, when I'm moving around, this will give a really solid, like really solid there, lip for this to catch on. So there's no way that this is going to be pushing out because I don't want it putting any pressure on the door, because all that will be is held on with a latch, right? So if it was leaning directly onto the door, that would break eventually the latch and it would fly open, it would ruin my cabinetry, so just thinking ahead. So I've cut out the pieces for the first part of the kitchen counter. These will run across the bulkhead and basically house the kitchen sink and some cabinets. And the reason why I'm doing this first is because I want to build backwards from the bulkhead. That way I'm not like boxing myself into a corner. And also because it will determine exactly where I place the stove and whatnot. And this is kind of a separate portion. The two don't really intersect. They kind of overlap. And that will make a little bit more sense later. So for now, what I want to do is I want to start by staining these. So I've stained all the pieces for this portion of the countertop. Now I need to be able to assemble them in a way that will be consistent. So I've made a right angle jig. This is perfectly square. And then this piece here just helps keep the boards in place. So I can put the cabinet pieces in. And then I can assemble the screw holes with the pocket jig. So the way that I'm going to be attaching this counter together is with pocket holes on the sides that are hidden. Basically, it's just a little jig that will put this special drill bit in on an angle so that a screw can be put in stealthily. I'm going to start by putting the bottom plates together, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there. Help make that joint nice and good, nice and strong. And then use the pocket holes to secure the cabinet together. Alright, so there's me a joint like that. The real advantage to using pocket holes is that when this is in the correct position, you won't see any screws. So I've got 3 pieces connected going along the bottom here, up and then over. So this post here was a little bit tricky. Turns out I can't do that one with a pocket hole, so I had to screw it from underneath, and I'll have to do the same thing for the top. For some reason I put pocket holes on that one too, but it's not actually going to work that way, so I'll have to adjust my plans. Okay, so that's that part there. I now need to secure it to the walls and floor. So basically I've made this board plumb with the door jamb, and then I've just drilled 3 holes that go straight into the wood there and secure this to the wall. So here's the counter framing fully secured. I've screwed the bottom plates straight through down into the boards, and then this top board here I've basically just propped in place by screwing a little block onto the wall so that it can rest, because that'll need a little bit of fine-tuning later on. This is my plan for the second part of the counter that will hold the range. This box here is the range. Basically, the kitchen counter will kind of like sit up here and be removable above the stove, so that when you're not using the stove, you have available counter space. And then it kind of slots down and interconnects with the previous section. So that previous section is kind of right here. And I've gone through a couple of different cuts here because I made a mistake. I miscalculated how high my stovetop is, so I have to drop the whole thing down a little bit. But once I've got all those pieces cut, I can assemble it. I've begun assembly on the second portion of the countertop. This big hole here, this gap, is where the stovetop will be, and this little notch is what connects to our previous framing. It took some doing, but this portion's finally all the way assembled. I now need to attach it to this portion. Today is surely a day of mistakes, because this whole section here was on the wrong angle, so I took it apart and reassembled it. Okay, so after many mistakes, I've got this basic framing in. That piece there obviously needed to be replaced. I will restain it, but I'm not going to wait for the stain to dry to continue with this project, so I will do that after the fact. And now basically I need to do all the stuff that's not up at the front, all the hidden stuff. I've added some bracing on the back there, which means that this is now a pretty sturdy contraption. I still have more work to do, but this will give me a good base to build the rest of this portion of the countertop from. And it also puts this one here into its final position. So I'm just test fitting the range here, and this is how it fits in right now. I've just got it resting on the framing itself, and now I just need a way to support it. The underside has a bunch of screws poking down, so I've just had to put some holes into the top here of this beam so that they can just sort of slot in there. They're not purchasing or anything, they're just going in so that it can sit flush. I've added some more bracing to accommodate the stove top. Basically, the stove will rest on these three supports here, and then this backing here is visible from the side, and that will also give me something else to screw it into. And then this backing here is purely just to, you can see into that gap, so I'm going to stain that the same color as the outer trim, and then that will just serve to basically hide your vision into there. And then this bit here is basically just where the stove ends and continuing back exactly the same as on this side. So this is what it looks like with the stove installed, and that gives you a really good idea of why all that bracing's there and what exactly everything does. So I've just stained those portions of the boards that will be visible before attaching the stovetop. I've given all of the stained portions of the kitchen counter a coat of polyurethane, and I'll go back and do more coats because it's very important to seal this wood properly. This is a kitchen counter. Things get spilled in kitchens, right? So I want to protect the wood as best I can. I'm adding onto the frame coming off the kitchen counter because this is where a built-in bench will be. And right where that bucket is going to be my toilet. So I'm just trying to build a dual-purpose couch bench / toilet area here. So I've added on 3 braces, and these will support both your body weight when you're sitting on the couch, and then also the 2 separate sort of lids for the bathroom area. So on this side, there's a larger opening that will contain the composting toilet itself, and then on this side, there's room for toiletries and then a bucket of sawdust. Okay, so I've designed 2 lids to go on top here. Right now, these are just loose. They may or may not be hinged, depending on how it ends up working out, but basically they just pull away for now, and then the back ones here are nailed down. And basically the purpose of this is just to be a little bit more organized. I'll be cutting holes in the top of these so you can access down below them without actually opening them up. And then on this side here, a toilet seat. Probably not this one is just one that I'm borrowing for size and getting the dimensions right, will be there, and I'll probably just take the lid off so it'll be like that. And then this side, like I'll cut a hole for the bucket so it'll be easily accessible, but if you ever need to like actually take anything out, the whole thing can just come out like that. Now, because no one likes to sit on a toilet seat when they're watching TV, I'm going to put a second lid, which will be the actual couch cushion. So what I've done is I've put some bracing here. This bit along the front here is actually the front of what will be that lid. It will lift up. And then 2 pieces of wood here at the back to help create a space for that lid to go on top. My, what have we here? I've installed the lid, sort of, so that it comes down and rests like that, and I've just got a piano hinge going along the back there, so it's nice and flat, and that'll go up there. And I'm just going to attach this rail here to the lip, because when you're sitting on the toilet, the last thing you want is to have this piece of wood here, like in the way of your legs, so that'll also go up there. That said, then that's in your back. Got a decision to make there, I guess. Let's just try it out. Let's get up here. I mean, it's not so bad. You can sit back this way. Although when I'm on, do you usually lean back when you're on the toilet? No. Normally you don't. Yeah, not so bad. Going with the original plan. Okay, perfect. So when that goes up, then you have your toilet and your toiletries here. And I will install a latch of some sort so that when we're driving, this doesn't rattle around. And then I'll use that same latch to be able to secure this up here so that just in case you're on an incline or something like this, you're not fighting that when you're using the toilet. Really happy with this. Okay, so I've just stained around the edges of that board so that when it's lifted up or when you're looking at it from the very front head on, you see that it blends in with the rest of the cabinetry. And then, of course, the top will be covered by a cushion, so you won't ever see that. Now that the polyurethane's dried, I've slotted the stove back in and secured it down. Well, as you can see, it's working. I've run the hose down to the back of the van to the propane tank, and I have fire. And this is the progress with the kitchen and toilet bench fully framed out. The kitchen is really the heart of a home, and I'm really excited to have completed the framing for mine. This obviously still needs a lot of work. I need a countertop, but I'm waiting for a special piece of wood for that. And I also need some more pallets to do the front, and I'm going to hold off a little bit on doing the drawers and the cupboard doors and stuff because I want to really make sure that I'm putting the right set of cubbies and whatnot into it so that they work best for my needs. But I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.